Hello, my name is Carrie Brown and I am with the Central Mississippi Regional Library System. Today I'm going to be reading to you chapters 3 and 4 of Calendar Mysteries June Jam, written by Ron Roy, illustrated by John Stephen Gurney, published by Random House, New York. Chapter 3, Lucy's Great Idea. "How do we catch something we can't see?" Nate asked. Bradley thought about what he'd been reading in the encyclopedia about jungles. He remembered a section that showed people catching animals. "I have some ideas," he said, "but first, let's finish weeding the garden. If I see one thing with legs and a mouth, I'm out of here," Nate said. "We all have legs and mouths," Brian teased. Nate giggled. "You know what I mean," he said. The four kids got busy. They yanked every weed they could find and threw them in the pile. Bradley removed every strawberry that had been bitten. There were some ripe red ones and a lot that would turn red soon. The kids were hot, dirty, and sweaty when they finished. The boys took off their t-shirts and hung them on the fence. Then they sprayed each other with the garden hose. "I just had an idea," Lucy said. She pointed at the 3 t-shirts on the fence. "We could build a scarecrow and stand it in the garden. It might scare the mystery creature into staying away." "How do you make a scarecrow?" asked Brian. "It's easy," Lucy said. "I helped my folks build one back home. We need wood, nails, and some old clothes to dress it in." "There's wood and nails in the barn," Brian said. "I could get some of my dad's old clothes," Bradley said. "Why can't we use our own?" Brian asked. "Too small," Lucy said. "You want big, floppy shirts and pants." "Cool," Bradley said. "We'll meet in the barn after I talk to my father." The boys put their shirts back on. Brian, Nate, and Lucy ran into the barn. Bradley cut across the yard. "Dad, I need your clothes," he yelled as he entered the kitchen. Bradley's father was standing at the stove. He was humming and stirring something in a pot. The kitchen smelled like tomato sauce. Pal, the family's basset hound, was under the table snoring. "My clothes?" he asked. "You want me to cook in my underwear?" Bradley laughed. "Not what you're wearing now," he said. "Old clothes." "Why do you want my old clothes?" his father asked. It's a surprise," Bradley said. "Well, okay. Go ask your mom. I think she's upstairs." "Thanks, Dad." Bradley ran up the stairs. His parents' bedroom door was closed. He knocked. "Mom, are you awake?" "Come in," his mother called. She was reading, but put down her book and smiled. "Why is your hair wet, Bradley?" "We're weeding the garden and I got hot," he said. Bradley told his mother about the creature that was eating strawberries and vegetables. He left out the part about wanting to make jam for Father's Day. He still wanted to do it, but he wanted it to be a surprise. "We want to make a scarecrow," he said. "What a good idea," his mother said. She got up off the bed and opened the door to their big closet. "Okay, here's a shirt that I've been wanting to throw out for a year." She handed Bradley an old blue flannel shirt. "And take these jeans. They have paint stains all over the knees." Bradley's mother winked. "Don't tell Daddy," she whispered. Chapter 4, Scary Scarecrow. Bradley carried the shirt and jeans across the yard to the barn. Josh, Dink, and Ruth Rose were sweeping the floor. They had piled a lot of stuff out on the workbench. Bradley noticed a tricycle he used to ride. He also saw an old basketball and a rolled-up fishing net. At the other end of the barn, Brian, Nate, and Lucy were looking through a pile of boards. "Mom let me have Dad's old shirt and jeans," he told the other kids. "They'll be perfect," Lucy said. "So what do we do?" Brian asked. "I've got a hammer and nails." Lucy pulled out some thin boards. "This tall one can be the body," she said, "and these can be the arms and legs. We just nail them together." "That's supposed to scare animals away?" Nate said. "It'll just be a big stick figure." "No, it'll look like a big human after we put the shirt and pants on and stuff it with straw," Lucy explained. The kids knelt on the floor. Lucy arranged the boards. "See? Arms and legs. Who wants to hammer?" she asked. "I will," Nate said. Brian handed Nate a nail. "Don't hit your thumb," he said. "I won't," Nate said. He held the nail in place, lifted the hammer, and hit his thumb. "Ouch!" he said. "Told you," Brian said. "Let me try," Bradley said, taking the hammer. "I helped my dad build a birdhouse last year." Soon the boards were nailed together. "Okay, now we dress him," Lucy said. The kids tugged the shirt and jeans onto the wood frame. "He looks like he's starving," Nate said. "Grab some straw," Lucy said. "We'll make him look fat." They each brought an armful of straw and began to filling the shirt and jeans. "Give him a big chest," Brian said. "He'll look like a giant." Bradley found some rope, and they tied it around the Scarecrow's waist for a belt. They tied more around his wrists and ankles so the straw wouldn't fall out. When they were done, the Scarecrow looked almost real. "He's cool," Nate said, "except for one thing. He needs a head." "Wait a sec," Bradley said. He ran into Polly's stall. His pony was munching from her pail of oats. He patted her neck, then took the empty oat bag. It said oats on one side, but the bag would make a perfect Scarecrow head. He ran back to the others. "How's this?" he asked. "Great," Lucy said. "Stuff it with straw." After the head was filled with straw, the kids tied it onto the frame with more rope. "It's not very scary," Brian said, "but I know how to fix that." He raced out of the barn toward the house. "We could draw a scary face with magic markers," Bradley suggested. "Let's splash his face with red paint that looks like blood," Nate said. Brian ran back into the barn. He showed the other kids a Halloween mask. The face had warts, snaggly teeth, a big scar, and one eyeball hanging out of its socket. "What do you think?" Brian asked. "Awesome," Nate said. Bradley laughed. "Cool, Brian. Not even Dad will go into the garden when he sees this." Brian tugged the mask over the stuffed oats bag. "Okay, let's bring him outside," Lucy said. The kids each took an arm or a leg, and they lugged the Scarecrow onto the garden. Josh, Snink, and Ruth Rose stared at the younger kids, and the Scarecrow moved through the barn. They used rope to tie the Scarecrow to the fence. "That is so amazingly awesome," Nate said. "It looks like someone I know," Brian said. He closed his eyes, pretending to think. "Oh, yeah, it looks like you, Bradley." Bradley grinned. "Well, if it looks like me, then it looks like you, twin brother." Thank you. Be sure to tune in next week for chapters 5 and 6. Goodbye.